Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. And welcome to our May Lubzin Magazine webinar. My name is Collins Ngaira, the Lubzin Magazine Content Manager. And this month of May, we are excited to explore the topic Securing Africa's Lubricant Market. Securing Africa's Lubricant Market. And of course, we shall be looking into the roles of the government, the industry, the consumers in fighting the counterfeits. Today, we are excited to host Mohammed Baraka. Mohammed Baraka is the CEO of Synergy Energies. And of course, our Lubzin Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Dr. James Wakiru, who will be taking us through the conversation. It's also important to note that we have our Q&A section in which we are all allowed to be sharing our questions as the conversation goes on. So at this point in time, allow me welcome Dr. James Wakiru, who will in turn welcome Mohammed Baraka, and then together they will drive the conversation. So Dr. James Wakiru, please welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Collins. And again, I want to say good morning, good afternoon to all the people who have joined, all across Africa and beyond. So welcome to Lubzin webinar, as we've been intimated that is securing Africa's lubricants market. And of course, we'll be looking at the illicit trade that is all around the counterfeits and of course the role of various stakeholders. My name is Dr. James Wakiru, and I'll be the host of today's session. It's a pleasure to be joined by our guest, Mohammed Baraka, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Synergy Lubricants Solutions. He's a leader with deep experience in Africa's lubricants value chain and a strong voice in the fight against counterfeits. Mohammed, thank you for joining us. I'll give you a chance that you can introduce yourself, say quite a bit about yourself before we start.
Okay, thank you, James. Good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Mohammed Baraka. As you are told, I'm the CEO of Synergy Lubricant Solutions. It's a local company that we formed about 15 years ago to manufacture and market quality lubricants. But I myself have been in the lubricant industry for about 51 years. I started off in a laboratory as a chemist in 1975. Caltex blending plant laboratory in 1975, and moved into marketing about 78. And I worked in technical service in Kenya, Uganda, and various African countries in which Caltex was operating. I spent a lot of time in the Philippines in training and working there, and worked in Australia, Europe, and the USA. So my position as in the lubricant industry and the advocacy I'm doing is I'm the chairman of the Petroleum Institute's task force, and one of the responsibilities is to try and create a level playing field and alert the authorities the things that are affecting the lubricant industry. Thank you. I think you'll know more as we go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. That's a rich experience, and I think we are happy that we will be able to tap quite a bit from you. So to frame our discussion today, we are going to unpack the scale of counterfeit lubricants in Africa, the risks to, of course, our equipment, the roles of different stakeholders, the tools, maybe policies, technology, and collaboration that can help us secure the market. Let's start by asking ourselves a fundamental question. When we talk about counterfeit lubricants, what exactly are we referring to, and why do you think this problem is often underestimated across Africa's different sectors of lubricants?
A counterfeit is a product, say, marketed by marketer A. He has some cheap product, a product that is cheaper than the popular brands in the market, and he acquires the packaging of that popular brand and puts in his own brand and sells it for as the genuine brand to the unsuspecting end user. But as I said, it's normally a lower quality, a cheaper product. And in the lubricant industry, as you know, that you can only have a cheap product if you have a material that is substandard or you have avoided taxes. So to talk about illicit and counterfeits is actually to understand the entire illicit supply chain, how these illicit activities are affecting counterfeit. So you take a product, Mohammed Baraka takes what a package of a product, and then I come and take your package of the most popular product, and I fill in that package, seal it properly. It looks like your original product, and I sell it to unsuspecting people, and they put it in their vehicle or their machine. That's what counterfeit is all about.
Why do you think this problem is underestimated?
Well, it's an estimated one because a lot of the, as I said, when you buy it, you are not sure. A lot of them only realize it was counterfeit after it causes the damage. The other thing is that it's very difficult to know beforehand, and it's underestimated mainly because people don't have enough knowledge about lubricants. They would just take a lubricant once they see it in a package. They say that that is a proper product, and they don't understand. And perhaps some of the things, in particular for engine oil, we normally maintain very short drain intervals. So you never realize that the product that you are taking is a low quality product until, of course, sometime, but when the engine starts running down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it is mainly because of ignorance by the consumer and the regulator. Mm-hmm. And because and it's also caused by corruption in the system, but it's massive, it's big.
It's big, yeah. So from your experience in the industry, so how widespread is the counterfeit lubricants crisis in Africa today? And maybe you could also give us a bit of some of the sectors or markets that are most vulnerable.
Well, yeah. In Africa, well, I stopped working out of Kenya quite some time, so a lot of my experience is on Kenya. But I also sit on the East African Standards Council, and you can understand the knowledge that each country has. I would say, for example, if I were to tell Kenya, the counterfeit, together with the other illicit activity, would account for more than 30% of the lubricants in the market. But it varies from one sector to another. Say, for example, the lower end of the market, the riders, the two-wheelers, three-wheelers are sort of the hardest hit with the illicit and counterfeit lubricants. You'll find some of the passenger vehicles, what we call here matatu or daladala in Tanzania or taxi in Uganda. They tend to be much more careful of what they are going to use because they have been hit and they can notice the effect of the counterfeit lubricant immediately, because if they had been using quality, say, Shell product, and all of a sudden they put in a counterfeit, they can tell, no, this oil is not good. People who are doing trucking too, and most of them are very sensitive about the quality of the oil, and they can know that this oil is not good. But passenger vehicle owners, saloon cars, you wouldn't know until perhaps your engine breaks down or something happens. So it's very difficult to tell exactly how much. But on the other hand, it will vary from one country to another. Even within East Africa, I think where you take, for example, Rwanda, I think they are a bit tighter and they are able to control that. Tanzania has now taken the lead. There are Weura there who are actually checking the lubricant that comes into the country or is manufactured in the country. So generally, it varies from one African country to another, but it's a general big problem in the whole of Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thanks so much. I think you've alluded to the consumer awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think, and you've said they don't really understand very well the risk of using counterfeit lubricants, yeah? But where are the biggest gaps in this awareness to the consumers?
To the consumers, because generally over the period of time, people have been running trainings and so on, and people are getting some knowledge. But one is, as I said, it's very difficult to tell. But the thing is that the main gap is, how does this product get to be used for counterfeit? It must be cheaper than, say, the main brand that they are counterfeiting. And as you know, base oils and additives of same quality, the prices would be very much close to each other. So it's very difficult for a genuine product to be used. Now, the question is, how do you get in the material? Someone is getting in recycled material, which should actually have been prevented, or someone is using additives or not even using additives at all and packing this product into the containers. So it is also various things that is that way. Then, of course, there is the corruption. You can see a lot of the product coming in and going into the market, full certification by the government agencies. And then you wonder, how do they get the certification? And in South Africa, we have tried to make sure that whatever standard we use, we must write down the need to adhere to the base oil standard, and the additives that you are using must give you performance. If not, you must go back to the additive manufacturer and show that if you are claiming the oil is a API CH4, show us the certification you got from API to say that if it's blended this way, it's going to meet CH4. So it's a combination of many things, And then, of course, human greed. If you are a stockist and someone comes in with the oil that is telling you this oil comes from Shell or Total or Rubis, I'm selling to you at a half price. Oh, the greed is that let me take it. But you don't question yourself, how can he have cheaper product than Shell themselves? So even in Kenya, the level of counterfeit varies from one region to another. If you go to Garissa, you'll find a lot of the product is illicit, is a counterfeit. But if you come to Grogan Road, a lot of products tend to be genuine in Nairobi. Yeah.
So do you attribute that to some knowledge from, of course, the stockists and the consumers?
Yeah. As I said, some of it is lack of knowledge. It's a human greed. Someone can get the product, and if it's illicit, you'll know that it's illicit. Why would he be selling that cheap? But you as a stockist, you still want to buy it to make a profit. Even the mechanics, some of the mechanics, in the old days, we used to say, if you want to sell lubricant, go to the mechanic and he'll advise the end user. No end user wants to listen to a mechanic because mechanic can take a counterfeit product and use it and give you a package of a genuine product and say this product is genuine. So that's what I've used in your engine. You can only know when you get there. So that is one of the things that could happen. Then, of course, the looseness of the industry is, for example, in most African countries, the lubricant industry tends to take a second priority to the fuel industry. And so we have never come up with the proper mechanisms to control this illicit business. And to an extent that you would find when government agencies is licensing one to go and get raw materials like recycled base oil, process it, and sell it into the market. But you ask the other one that is supposed to be in quality, why did it happen? Say, we don't know. So that is one of the things that happens. Like here in Kenya, you have people collecting used oil, filtering it, and centrifuging it, and packing it as finished lubricant.
And so if we look at, I think we know this kind of illicit business models, because many counterfeit operations are highly organized.
Yep.
And profit-driven, of course.
Yep.
So what are some of those underlying illicit business models that make counterfeiting so lucrative across African markets? Like distribution networks, of course, you've talked about corrupt supply chain actors. Yep. I don't know if there are a lot of informal blending operators and things like that.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Here in Kenya, we don't have rules for a blending plant. We don't have an organization that motivate a facility to say it's a blending plant. And anybody can say, I'm running a blending plant. You can bring in material, call it base oil, and it gets a preferential duty of 10% versus 35% that is supposed to be on finished lubricant. Either you package the product or just rebrand the product and sell it into the market as finished product. So there you saved a lot of money. And that's how it becomes very, very lucrative business, because if you got a recycled material which you're buying at half the price of the virgin product, and then you're avoiding taxes, you've saved over 50% of that price. You'll be in the market at 50% of the price of the main brand owner and still make a profit. So it's very well organized, and it is something that can only be done if the government understands the real impact, what is really happening. So as I said, unregulated blending plants, all these guys with the blending plants that are claiming to blend, they don't even have a formulation sheet. They don't have a laboratory. They don't have a retained sample and so on. So those are some of the loose ends in which this product gets in. The other, of course, as you say, is corruption. A lot of product is imported, finished product, and they don't pay duty. It can be sold even in the original package of the manufacturer of that product overseas, say from Dubai. But on the other hand, if you can't sell it, there is an incentive of you going to get one of the popular brands and using it to repackage your product and rebrand it as a major brand and sell it in the market. Yep.
So there's this aspect of recycled base oil. How is the East African market? Is there anyone who have legislated around that using recycled base oils?
Yeah, when we started this lubricant company, we found that there was a lot of product that was selling very cheap, and I traced it to recycled base oil. In which case, I came up. We agreed that with the technical committee, we set up a standard for the base oil, and it worked very well for Kenya that time. So people were not bringing recycled base oil. We have adopted it as an East African standard. But the enforcement of it is also a question mark, because we have had, for example, in Kenya, you can only know the base oil if you know the origin. Now, Kenya, we have a pre-shipment verification of the product as one way of making sure that the product comes from a known supply. But again, the law provides that the Kenya Bureau of Standards can appoint can do a destination inspection. So when there is an opportunity to do a destination inspection, it gives you a chance for people to cheat, bring in the base oil and claim it's a virgin base oil. But if the base oil standard is enforced, it can really work. And again, the sort of double standard application of the base oil standard, you will find, as I said, in Kenya, former people are collecting base oil and recycling it, filtering it, and sell it in the market. Nobody goes to verify the process by which it is being blended and trying to find out whether the product that is made meets the basic base oil standard. So that is one area whereby the law is misused. Otherwise, if it is properly controlled and you actually did pre-shipment at source, the question of recycled base oil will be much less. And in fact, bringing in finished product that you claim to be base oil will almost be done with.
If we look at the various forms of counterfeit, like fake packaging, recycled or used oil sold in as new, or even so-called premium products. From where you are sitting, the spread and this, what could you talk about the proportions? Which one is so much used in terms of this illicit trade?
Yeah, one breeds the other. First of all, the recycled is the recycled base oil is the main source, because for you to do counterfeiting, you must have a cheaper product than the brand that you are going to use. That's where the profit is, and pretend is that brand. So to get cheaper product, you have to have cheap base oil. A cheap base oil is recycled base oil, because the other base oil, virgin base oil, would be on an international pricing. You can only get a discount. Now, then the additives. There are a lot of additives that have been manufactured. People say they are using components to manufacture and so on. When you are using components, how can you claim the performance of that oil? So and they actually give it a classification and say, oh, it's API-CH4. But what is the origin is not there. The biggest is a recycled material. And because they bring in that cheap product, it is the one that is used to use for counterfeiting. It either is imported or is actually locally produced. And even apart from the former manufacturers of recycled base oils, there are a lot of places in the back street which are actually recycling these base oils. So that is the biggest source. But of course, counterfeit is the outcome of the illicit acquiring of the illicit material.
The material. So counterfeits don't operate in isolation, yeah?
No, they don't operate in isolation.
Yeah.
And actually trying to tackle the counterfeit problem, I've even been talking to the local anti-counterfeit authority and say, look, unless you address the source of this problem, there's no way you are going to stop it or reduce it, because you are actually treating the symptom. You go to some backyard where they are doing counterfeiting. Well, the question is, how did you get this product from? In European countries, even to move with used oil is a crime. Here we have no proper control of used oil. You'll see that a lot of places you are changing oil, someone is waiting for the used oil. Nobody even stocks any used oil. The oil industry has tried to do a used oil collection, but a lot of the people put in water and use the used oil and sell it out. It's got a commercial value now.
And so where do you see some collusion or willful negligence happening within the value chain? Whether is it importation points or retail outlets or workshops? And how can these weak links be disrupted, so that we can choke off this illegal trade?
Well, it keeps evolving, isn't it? It keeps evolving, and the only way that you can actually tackle it first, of course, is to understand. And you're going to get the people who are importing. That's why we are also put up a proposal that we have regulations and the people who are importing product to know they are importing the right product. Because you see, you're allowing someone to import a lubricant. He doesn't even understand what a lubricant is. But materials like recycled material are also dangerous to health. So you must have that regulation. Then, of course, you've got to make sure that people who are manning the entry know the quality, and they also know the taxes that are supposed to be paid. I say the base oil product is coming in drums and declared as a base oil. When we don't wonder why would the base oil come in drums, and yet people are bringing in base oil in bulk? Why don't they buy it from the people who are bringing it in bulk? And then, of course, as I said, the manufacturing facility itself is not a manufacturing facility. And if someone imports base oil, is paying duty which is much less than the finished product, surely the customs authorities should be checking. You are there when we used to have manufacturing under bond, whereby you actually, every end of the month, you can show how much material you brought in under bond and how much have you used and what is the balance, and they can count the balance, and you are given a certain time to make sure that the material does not overstay. There is no such a control. So that makes it very loose for people to bring in this product. And then, as I said, lack of knowledge of the people. We have lack of control of used oil collection and disposal. You've got to be concerned how the used oil should be disposed of. Not just license someone to go and take used oil and you don't care what he's going to use it on. It's dangerous material. It's dangerous to people's health. Not only is it dangerous to the vehicles and so on that they're going to put the product in. So those controls can only happen if people sit. You have people in KRA, people with the regulator, the people with the testing, and so on. And of course, there must be an open window where people can actually report these cases and they are investigated. Because a lot of time we report these cases and nobody cares, partly because you are reporting to the same people who are organizing it. So there is that level. But if you have a team, and we went through it when the oil industry was liberalized, a lot of the solutions we came up with were the solutions that we actually used to give out to the Minister of Energy and KRA and so on. And we used to have a roundtable meeting and come up with measures that can stop that. And until that is done, there is no way you can stop it. And again, as I said, they change. They're always smarter than the average person. So they will have another way of bringing in the product. So it needs all people to sit together and discuss that issue and come up with the measures.
Yeah, thanks for that. And what is coming out here is the government's role. And do you think we have policies and regulations that are there already, or we need urgently some of new policies and regulations to strengthen and better, give us more enforcement in this fight against illicit trade?
Africa generally, you need regulations, proper regulations put in place, and not just put in place in one country, but generally the whole region and the whole continent. We have to have that understanding. But you look at the economy of Dubai, it depends on Africa, and a lot of the products they are making are substandard. I remember when I went to look for a supply source for base oil in Dubai, they all kept asking me, well, don't you come from Africa? Because this oil is made for Africa and Afghanistan. Afghanistan was under war. But Africa was not under war, but we don't have regulations. We have very weak regulations, and those are going to be put in place. And lucky some countries have started strengthening them and understanding. And again, it's complex, it's technical, so you need people to come up and tell you what needs to be done. Right now, I can tell you there's nobody in the government who knows about lubricants or who concerned about lubricants. The only people, the nearest people you come to are Bureau of Standards, Kenya Bureau of Standards. But they are a testing body. They are not a regulator of the lubricant industry. They are not, they will be told what to test, and when they test it, they say the product is okay.
Yeah.
So that is the thing. It's weak. As I said, when the petroleum market was liberalized in the African region, the government tended to focus more on fuel than they focus on lubricants, because fuel was a big money they were losing. But lubricants, they don't understand. These illicit lubricants are causing a lot of damage to equipment, a lot of damage to environment, a lot of damage to human health, and so on. So it's a major disaster in Africa.
Wow, I think it's a big thing. I think it's a big elephant in the room, which, if it's unearthed, maybe people will see where it's really touching us, because it's talking of 30%. We're losing like 30% of the trade being in this kind of illicit trade. It's quite
you're losing 30%. There is no incentive for investment. A lot of the existing blending plants were built there before even I joined the lubricant industry, and they have never changed. The three main blending plants. Hardly another proper blending plant has ever been built. So nobody would want to invest in a blending plant, and we have been to most of them. They are still very manual. They can't put in investment to automate or increase capacity because there is no market. This market has been taken over by that, and unless it's controlled, you can't grow. And then not only does it affect the lubricant industry, it affects the lubricant. Lubricant is the blood of an economy. Yeah. Now, if the lubricant is bad, it spoils everything for the economy. It spoils everything in terms of food production. It spoils everything in terms of transportation. It affects the whole economy. Some people estimate Africa could be losing 2 to 3% of their GDP because of these illicit lubricants that have flooded the market.
So there are other stakeholders, of course, beyond the government, of course, are very critical. Let's say like the regulators, of course, we've talked about them, but what about the OMCs, oil marketing companies, the OEMs?
Yeah, OEMs, again, you see, most of the lubricant companies the lubricant suppliers are fuel companies. And the lubricants normally just contribute about 1 or 2% of the revenue. So it doesn't really get very high level in attention in an organization. Here, I just do lubricants. So I'm with lubricants from morning till evening. They can actually help by, first of all, helping to educate the end user, ensuring that they lobby the government to take measures to correct the mess that is in the lubricant industry, and have a code of ethics in the groups that they are in. If, for example, you are in Kenya, you are a member of Petroleum Institute of East Africa, you must say that the guys who are going to be there must be the guys that are doing the right thing. And if there are people who are doing the wrong thing in the organization, you should name them and shame them. That can actually help. And then, of course, trying to, because there are a lot of people in the field and then see all these counterfeits and so on, they should have a hotline that they can report this matter to and get some action taken. So there is a role they can play. To a large extent, most of them are actually victims. There are very few inside there that are former lubricants companies that are doing the illicit business. There are these companies that are outside the mainstream fuel industry that are actually mainly concerned with the activity of illicit business.
So we can't fight it alone, and maybe collaboration between government, regulators, OEMs, lubricant manufacturers, consumers could be the winning plan.
There's no way. You see, the government needs to learn from the industry, and the industry needs to learn from the consumer, and the consumers needs to learn from everybody else. So it needs everybody. It needs the whole group to be together. And as I said, like in the fuel industry, what we used to have is a meetings of KRA, meeting of all sorts of guys. You need to have CABs, you need to have NEMA, you need to have EPRA, you need to have Kenya Revenue Authority, you need to have the oil marketing companies, and they can actually point to you, because one of the aspects of this illicit trade is that it cuts the market. These guys can offer the product at half the price that you can't. So they're actually undercutting your market, and you actually allow them to bring those issues up and have a way that these issues are investigated and the responses are given onto the table and say, yeah, this is the action we are taking. So it needs everybody that is in every stakeholder to actually contribute to it. And of course, it's always changing. So it's regular reviewing of the activities that are causing this.
Okay, so looking at technology is reshaping many industries, yeah?
Yes.
And of course, lubricants is not an exception.
Yeah.
So what innovations do you see as potential game changers in combating counterfeits and fake lubricants?
Yeah, technology can play a role in fighting counterfeit by actually improving the packaging quality. You have tamper-proof seals. You have QR codes that can trace the origin of the product. You have the holograms, proper seals. Induction sealing has come up as one of the effective ways of combating it. And again, the AI for you to find out the traceability of the product, other technologies that can help you, the blockchain and so on, to make sure that the product movement is properly traced from the origin, so you can know where the product came from. So there are all those technologies, but I think those technologies can only be useful if we have had enough control on the other side, the source. We curtail the source. So this will be exceptions. But right now, trying to do it and doing it perhaps alone, it will not really help. It can help to an extent, but it's not going to be the solution. Yeah. Because there's big money to be made, the human brain will always think of a way to go around it.
Oh, yeah.
I know even they see, like, you know, when you talk of QR codes and so on, those are on the top of the package. And what they do is they take the package, they preserve the QR code and put in the recycled product. So if you try to check the QR code, the QR code says the product is genuine, but what is inside there is recycled.
Yeah.
I know one marketer who actually said that he'll put a scratch card on the package so that you can get airtime, then you scratch. That was to make sure that if someone else found a product where the scratch card has been scratched, you'll know that this product is counterfeit. What they were doing, the counterfeiters were now paying for the package. They were allowing, say, 50 Kenya shillings scratch card. So they increased their price by 70 shillings. what they buy those packages for. And people didn't want to scratch. You open up, preserve it, and sell it for a higher price.
I think we are caught in between a hard and a rock.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is something that people should come together and understand the impact this thing has. Look, used oil is carcinogenic.
Yeah.
It causes cancer, so his handling has got to be taken care of. I mean, brake fluid, people take brake fluid, they just mix it with the water to give it the smell of brake fluid and sell it as brake fluid. So can you tell me, or they put in soap?
Yes.
So you see a lot of these accidents that happen, people are either going downhill, the brake failed, or they were at a high speed, they couldn't, the brake couldn't hold it, it failed. Why does it happen? Because what the material that is in the brake system it doesn't have the boiling point that a proper brake fluid should have.
Yeah.
And you can see how greedy we become. You go and kill your neighbor for about 200, 300 shillings, and he loses the vehicle.
Really bad.
Yep.
Now, let's look at, as we come towards the end, looking ahead, like 5 to 10 years, what does a secure, trusted, and counterfeit-resistant African lubricants market look like for you? And
for me,
what must happen now?
Well, if we took the measures that we are talking about, and we progressively identify the other challenges that are happening, this can become a very good market. Let's face it, Africa is the only growing market in terms of lubricant use consumption. But look at how many industries are set up in UAE, India, and so on to supply Africa. If we actually got to control that and we gave incentive for people to come and invest and build lubricant plants, grease plants, and so on, that would cause a lot of value to the people of Africa.
Yes.
It can also help a lot because now people will have access to quality product. Productivity will go up in all the sectors of the industry, whether it's transport, whether it's agriculture, whether it's forestry, whatever, it will go up because people are using the right product. But it is something that can happen. And as I said, I'm aware in Rwanda, things have improved. Tanzania, 25 years I worked in Tanzania, people didn't even understand what standards were. Right now, they're among the top in East Africa. So it's actually the government itself to come up and take those proactive measures to actually generate value. And we should actually be blending. I mean, Dangote is building a refinery there. He wants to build one in East Africa. He said very clearly, I can only build it if you stop illicit business coming in. The same is for lubricant industry. And perhaps we can actually have our own base oil plants and so on. We have the raw materials. But what is the justification? The market is fragmented and it's all full of illicit business. You look at it, you don't want to do it. I've met people who want to put in grease plants. And when they look at the market, they say, no, you can't put in grease plants and compete with the greases on the market.
True.
So it has, if we do something, it can actually turn around things for Africa and we can become a major, perhaps Africa is the only one that is a major net importer of base oil. All the other continents in the world are making their own base oils.
True.
And if you create employment, you create value,
Yeah. Thank you for that very powerful vision. Maybe we can go now to question and answer session. I'll ask Collins, maybe you could also tell the participants they can type in their questions. I think there are some. Maybe you can ask Mr. Baraka to answer some. Okay, over to you.
So thank you. We have some 3 questions here, and I'm just going to ask them. Then Mr. Baraka will be responding to them chronologically. So the first question is, what are the regulations that control import of base oils, either virgin or recycled, in African countries? The question is, what are the regulations that control import of base oils, either virgin or recycled, in African countries? The second question is, when base oils are from an unknown base oil source or recycled, how are performance claims maintained without base oil read across engine tests being conducted as per API rules. It's when base oils are from an unknown base oil source or recycled, how are performance claims maintained without base oil read across engine tests being conducted as per API rules? And now the last question is forming an African Lubricant Association a good idea to control counterfeit products? Is forming an African Lubricant Association a good idea to control counterfeit products? Those are the three questions. Thank you.
As I said on the regulations, what I said is one, we came out with a base oil standard. And and of course, the key thing was really to check whether there are wear metals or trace metals in the base oil. So base oils, the virgin base oil will not have trace metals in it. So if you have a base oil with the trace metals in it, to a certain level, it means that this base oil is recycled. And so if there shouldn't be a question of us importing by recycled base oil. I mean, say for example, we bring a lot of recycled base oil from UAE. A lot of these base oils are from Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia, there is when they're doing major maintenance on drilling rigs and so on, they put it in tanks. They let the base oil settle and they filter it and send it to Dubai to export to Africa. What we are doing is we are just using Africa as a dumping ground. I'm sorry to say, and it's very, very embarrassing. As I said, people, when they see me asking for virgin base oil in Dubai, they ask me, where do you come from? I thought you come from Africa, because they can tell from my face. So that is very embarrassing. And we should actually insist on importation of the base oil. And true, we have actually said that in future standards, or the standards we are making right now, we require the base oil meets the Kenya Bureau of Standards base oil. And if you have got to interrogate the formulation provider tells you that my oil will meet this specification if you use base oil from this source and this source, ExxonMobil, Group 2 or Group 1, and with this percentage of additive should give you this performance. And you can get that performance test that had been done to back up the claims that the additive supply is giving. But we don't even follow that. We just end up to say, when we have put on the test to be carried out, someone just tests and say the oil meets the standard. Otherwise, if there were to be proper importation of base oil, we should know where it's coming from, the refinery. Better still was what we did in the fuel industry. Fuel industry, when it was deregulated, fuel was coming in through every port in Mombasa, everywhere in Mombasa. And we said that it should be only one port of entry. Why should someone be able to bring base oil from UAE and be cheaper than someone who has brought in base oil in a ship tank and is actually pumping it in his ship tanks? So we should actually say all the base oil should come a designated area, and the people who have the facility should be allowed to import and sell to the people who have blending plants and don't have access to the terminal, instead of allowing people to import anyhow, because whatever you do, even the standards, people will still cheat on it. And you can't be testing everything that comes in. I mean, someone can put 3 base oils in one container. You're going to test all of it. And it's very expensive to test. But if you had all the base oil, say, for requirement for Kenya or Tanzania, come in one ship and is shared like we do in the fuel, that will actually limit the amount of testing and guarantee as quality and be sure that the product is going to be made is being made in accordance with approved base oil as by the additive manufacturer's requirement, and therefore meets the API or whatever standard you want to go. The second question, so then that answers the second question. How can a base oil that you don't know give you a performance? That's why I'm saying that in the standards, the East African standards, we are insisting. We know the base oil, and if you go to some of these additive manufacturers and suppliers, if I were to ask Lubrizol or Chevron or Afton or Infineum, I want an additive to blend a lubricant. The first question is, what base oils do you have? Because the engine approvals or the performance approvals are based on a formulation that has been provided by the additive manufacturer. So if you want to know that formulation, or if it is not that formulation, and the additive manufacturer vouch on using any other base oil. So the base oil source, without knowing the base oil source, you cannot claim a performance. And it also goes not only to the base oil, but also the additive. A lot of the additives that we are using, as I said, a lot of people are saying they are using components. I don't know how they can mix additives and come up with a product that you can claim meets a certain standard. You have not tested it in an engine. You don't know how much you are putting in. It's just a chemist. It's just a mixing of things. Now, the idea of having an African lubricants is a very good idea. It's a very commendable idea, because you can only fight this thing as a region, as the whole of Africa. You cannot fight it as say like Kenya. You can fight it in Kenya, but someone in Uganda is importing lubricants and sending it back into Kenya. How will you be able to control it? And again, for the knowledge of what these activities are, if we have that, we can exchange ideas and what people have done in one area or the other to compare to that. And knowledge is good when it's shared. It's much faster than you trying to invent solutions. So I would really recommend the formation of such a region. And perhaps we should start with an East African body that can put together all players in the lubricants industry, and we should be able to be going to the governments and the regulators and say, this is not right, this is not wrong. We must have a voice for the consumer and for the industry to prosper.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I think as we come to the end, thanks for that. I think for the association, maybe we'll try and see if we can midwife one as we go on. And also we could also ask the people in other countries in Africa on their state. I'll give you a final 1 minute message that you would like to leave with Africa's lubricants community, the government, industry players, and consumers. Mr. Baraka.
Well, my appeal to all of us is to understand the importance of having quality lubricants in the market. It saves a lot. I've gone through all the bad things that can happen with all these bad lubricants. We can only prosper if we can get this act together and make sure that the end user, the investment the end user has put it into the machine is actually giving us returns. So it needs all of us to come together and work on that. We need voices, because there are no voices for lubricants. Perhaps that's why I'm the loudest, because very, very few people talk about lubricants, even in Kenya. We need to come up and talk about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Baraka. Thank you for your insights and the work that you are doing in this space. I think talking and speaking as it is very important. It is saving many, and I believe it will still bear fruit as we go on. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Questions that came through contributed to this important conversation in securing Africa's lubricants market. On behalf of Lubzin, this is James Swakiru signing off. We will be able to share this recording to all of us who had registered. And apologies again, we had to shift the date because of yesterday was a holiday. And so even for Mr. Baraka, Idul Adha and Eid wishes for you. So let's stay informed. Let's buy from trusted sources, and let's play our part in fighting counterfeits. Let's have a great day, everyone. Thank you.